This news blast is brought to you by QBird, Pittsburgh's source for LGBTQ plus news and community information. To learn more about QBird, visit their website at qbird.com. That's QBURGH.com. From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is a news blast for February 27th, 2025. A new federal lawsuit in Maryland is challenging a Trump administration memo giving the nation's schools and universities 2 weeks to eliminate race-based practices of any kind or risk losing their federal money. The lawsuit, filed Tuesday by the American Federation of Teachers Union and the American Sociological Association, says the Education Department's February 14th memo violates the Fifth and First Amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Forcing schools to teach only the views supported by the federal government amounts to a violation of free speech, the organizations say, and the directive is so vague that schools don't know what practices cross the line. This letter radically upends and rewrites otherwise well-established jurisprudence, the lawsuit said. No federal law prevents teaching about race and race-related topics, and the Supreme Court has not banned efforts to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in education. The memo, formerly known as a Dear Colleague letter, orders schools and universities to stop any practice that treats people differently because of their race, giving a deadline of this Friday. As a justification, it cites a Supreme Court decision banning the use of race in college admissions, saying the ruling applies more broadly to all federally funded education. President Donald Trump's administration is aiming to end what the memo described as widespread discrimination in education, often against white and Asian American students. At stake is a sweeping expansion of the Supreme Court ruling which focused on college admission policies that considered race as a factor when admitting students. In the February 14th memo, the Education Department said it interprets the ruling to apply to admissions, hiring, financial aid, graduation ceremonies, and all other aspects of student, academic, and campus life. The lawsuit says the Education Department is applying the Supreme Court decision too broadly and overstepping the agency's authority. It takes issue with a line in the memo condemning teaching about systemic and structural racism. It is not clear how a school could teach a fulsome U.S. history course without teaching about slavery, the Missouri Compromise, the Emancipation Proclamation, the forced relocation of Native American tribes, and other lessons that might run afoul of the letter, the lawsuit said. Can only imagine what they would have done with the internment camps from World War II. The department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. In the memo, Craig Traynor, acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, had said, schools and colleges' diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts have been smuggling racial stereotypes and explicit race consciousness into everyday training, programming, and discipline. But under any banner, discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin is, has been, and will continue to be illegal, Traynor wrote in the memo. The lawsuit argues the Dear Colleague letter is so broad that it appears to forbid voluntary student groups based on race or background, including Black student unions or Irish American heritage groups. The memo also appears to ban college admission practices that weren't outlawed in the Supreme Court decision, including recruiting efforts to attract students of all races, the lawsuit said. It asks the court to stop the department from enforcing the memo and strike it down. The American Federation of Teachers is one of the nation's largest teacher unions. The Sociological Association is a group of about 9,000 college students, scholars, and teachers. Both groups say their members teach lessons and supervise student organizations that could jeopardize their school's federal money under the memo. If you are watching our videos on YouTube, be sure to click the subscribe button. Be sure to download the Live 365 app to take PEP Radio with you wherever you go. That's it for our news blast at this hour. Up now is the latest weather forecast for the Meadville area here on PEP Radio.